Ash is a 17-year-old gang leader in New York, and by the time show starts, he already survived more trauma than any adult man ever will. He was taken in as a kid by the mafia boss named Dino, and Dino spent years turning him into exactly what he needed: dangerous, controlled, useful. Ash grew up fast, grew up cold, because cold is the only thing that kept him alive at that time. Then Enji show up, a photographer from Japan, sent to New York on a completely unrelated assignment, who has zero business getting tangled in a gang warfare and drug conspiracy. And somehow Eiji become the one person in Ash's life who doesn't want anything from him. Not loyalty, not obedience, not his body, not his reputation, just him. Okay. And that's genuinely a new information to Ash. Nobody ever offered him that before. So the whole show became the slow burn of Ash. This kid who had to be a weapon his entire life, quietly learning what it feels like just to be a person around someone. And that's what makes the ending so brutal because the show spent 20 something episodes building that up only to rip it away in about 90 seconds. Here's the part people are arguing about. After Ash survived basically every enemy that show threw at him, the mafia, the syndicate, his own past, he gets stabbed by Lio in what should have been the very last fight standing between him and an actual feature. And instead of getting help, instead of fighting for his life, one more time, Ash walks to the library, sit down, pull out the letter Edgy left him, and start reading. He finish it and that's where the show ends. No hospital, no rescue, just Ash alone with his head resting on a letter. And the show never actually confirmed that he's died. They leave it on purpose and it's actually one of the most debated choices in anime history. But functionally, emotionally, everyone understand what just happened. Ash choose those final words with Edgy's letter, with Edgy's words over one more shot at survival. And the show want you to sitting with that decision, not distracting it by a hospital scene or a rescue scene that undoes it. Now here's the piece people talk about less. And it's the piece that explains everything earlier in this show. Ash tells his story about a leopard, a frozen leopard is found in top of the mountain, way higher than any leopard has reason to climb on. Nobody know what it was looking up there. Nobody know if it was climbing towards something or trying to get back down or just ran out of time. Ash tells the story like a throwaway detail, but it's not a throwaway detail. Edgy being edgy, he immediately push back on it and tell Ash that he's not a leopard. Tell him he's a human and human get to choose their own fate, unlike some animal following instinct of a cliff. It meant to be reassuring. It meant to give Ash permission to believe his story could end differently than everyone assumes. And then the finale happened and that leopard story suddenly came back around. Ash gets stabbed the same way the leopard died. Cold, alone, mid-January, with nobody around to explain why. Edgy own words about choice and fate get repeated back over that scene. Except how they got land completely differently because Ash did get a choice in the end. He just didn't choose to fight, he chose the letter. And that's the gut punch. Edgy spent the whole show trying to convince Ash he wasn't doomed like that leopard. And Ash spent the whole show quietly believing him that he is right. Right up until the moment he had an actual choice in front of him and picked the ending that exactly looked like the one Edgy swore wouldn't happen to him. So why? Why not fight? Why not just scream city of people for the help? Because I don't think Ash was choosing a death. I think he was choosing to not let this go for any longer than it had to. He already told people close to him more than once that having somebody who wanted nothing from him was worth more than anything else he ever had. He got that. He actually got to have that, even just for a while. And I think some part of him understood that if he lived, Edgy would come running straight back into a world that was never going to stop being dangerous for either of them. Sitting down with a letter wasn't giving up. It was the first time in his entire life Ash got to choose purely for himself himself with nobody else permissions and nobody else danger attached to it. That's why he never get the goodbye scene in this anime. Not because the show forgot to write one, but because giving one would have mean pulling Edge's back into exactly the kind of danger Ash spent the whole series trying to keep him away from it. The letter was the goodbye. Ash just had to be the only one who heard it right. People love to argue about whether this ending is a tragedy or something closer to a peace. Honestly, I think it's both. I think the show wanted to be both. It's tragic because a 17-year-old kid who finally found something worth living for a die alone on a library floor. And it's something like peace. Because for the very first time in the whole story, Ash isn't performing survival for somebody else's benefit. He's just existing in a quiet room, reading words from the one person whoever saw him as more than just useful. So here's what I actually want to know. Do you think Ash made the right call? Because there's a real argument that staying alive, even in danger, even without Edgy nearby, would have mattered more in the long run. Or do you think the show is right? That some people only get one moment of actually being free. And the smartest thing you can actually do is not let anyone take it away from you before it ends. Because that's the real question this ending leave you with. Not whether Ash died, whether he was right to choose it the way he died. Well, that's it from my end. I'm the Nutty Guy. Do subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.